Hi, my name is Libby Steele, and I am a child and family therapist with Gestalt Columbus, and wanted to chat a little bit today with the Dublin community about some of the behaviors that I'm hearing about from families that I'm seeing in my own family, and some of the things I think we're probably all experiencing right now as parents who are working at home and in close quarters, trying to navigate life in this pandemic situation. Um, One of the most common things I'm hearing from families is this idea that their children are kind of dysregulated. And what I mean by that is that perhaps they are more reactive than normal, some surface level misbehaving. Maybe they're a little bit shut down. Their reactions are maybe seemingly out of proportion to the situation at hand. Likewise, maybe as adults, some of ours are as well. So, one of the things that I have been talking to families about is this idea that right now we need space and grace. We need it as adults, and our children need it as well. In the Gestalt world and in our practice, we like to talk to families a lot about the container, which is simply the four walls that we put around our expectations of our children and our family. It's how we explain to them what we expect from them in any given situation, and it's usually in more global terms. For instance, we expect you to behave respectfully, honestly, we expect you to be kind, and we expect you to be accountable. And then that is graded based on the age of the child. That's kind of, in a nutshell, this idea of the container, so that it can apply across situations. What's happening now is that our situation has become very condensed. We are all in close quarters together. It's a lot of togetherness, and what can seem like misbehavior in our children. Maybe they are quick to temper, quick to cry. Maybe they're very clingy. Maybe they've suddenly lost a lot of their spark or their motivation. Maybe they seem needier than normal. Maybe they're even lying and seemingly manipulating the situation more than we would normally expect. And what I am understanding as I've done my own research and as I've worked with families is that a lot of what we're seeing is not actually misbehavior as we might normally expect it to look like. It's actually more of a nervous system response to a stressful situation. And what we are experiencing is kids moving kind of out of their zone of normal regulation into kind of a fight-flight response. One of my favorite authors, Dan Siegel, who wrote The Yes Brain Child, among many other books, talks about zones of regulation and distress tolerance in children. He talks a lot about the green zone, the red zone, the blue zone. And this is also supported by another really cool researcher, Dr. Stephen Porges, who does work on something called the polyvagal theory, which is just talking about how our nervous system response informs our behavior. So a lot of what we are seeing right now is sort of the playing out of that. So thinking about these reactions in terms of a nervous system response, there's a couple of different pathways that this reaction can take in our nervous system, and sort of falling within this idea of zones of regulation. So if we think about a kiddo who's in the green zone, that's kind of their typical selves. That's when they are in their kind of normal zone. They're still having a normal fluctuation in emotions, a normal fluctuation in energy levels and behavior, maybe crankier some days than others, but still pretty typical for that particular child. The red zone is when the nervous system kind of kicks into that fight or flight response. And some of the behaviors that we can see during that time are more of the maybe erratic behaviors, more aggressive behaviors. Again, this is when you might see what looks like some surface level misbehaviors. Maybe some more aggression with siblings, maybe some sleep difficulty, maybe regression in terms of potty training if they're younger, or even just some more childlike behaviors for our older kids. That's when we are seeing a lot of what the families that I work with are experiencing, which really feels like just we've lost parental control. Like it's everybody's going crazy. We're all stuck in here in this house together. The behavior's out of control. The manners are out of control. Nobody's on task. That sort of free for all, untethered feeling that a lot of us might be noticing with our kiddos. That is that fight or flight response kicking in, I think, especially in this case that we are experiencing. And beyond that, the blue zone is where I see a lot more adults right now. This idea that we are sort of shutting down, maybe withdrawing, maybe we are leaning further into technology, maybe we have lost a lot of our energy, we've lost a lot of our motivation. I've seen a lot of this in teenagers as well, especially those who had a kind of big year, whether they're seniors or juniors. There's supposed to be some big important milestones happening for them that they are losing out on. I'm seeing a lot of the blue zone for them. And as families and as parents, we have to kind of hold that pain for them. And we have to stay as much as possible, as much as in our bandwidth, the calm for the chaos. When I talk about the container and the need for space and grace, in this case, here is kind of what that looks like. If in your family you have set an expectation that if you talk back or if you speak disrespectfully, there's going to be some sort of a consequence. What I would say in this circumstance, keeping in mind that idea of space and grace, is the concept of a do-over. When in the past we might have been a little more strict or a little more rigid about the expectations, now we need to give kiddos a little bit more breathing room and say, could you try that again? Could you think of a kinder way to say that? I can listen when you're calmer, rather than the immediate consequence that we might have otherwise been inclined to do. Likewise, with chores, with schoolwork, and all of these expectations. By no means am I advocating for permissive parenting or just dropping all levels of responsibility, but meeting the kiddos where they are, understanding that this is a stressful situation for all of us, naming that and kind of giving them the benefit of the doubt instead of jumping to, for instance, I don't think you're giving me the truth. I don't think you're giving me the full story. I don't think you really did do that, or whatever the situation is, to say, I can understand this is a really overwhelming time for everybody. Here's the expectation. What do you need from me to help you get that done? Do you need a reminder? Do you need some help with it? How can I help you navigate this? The expectation is still there that you will do it, or that you will behave in this way, or that this thing will happen, but we are going to slow it down and calm it down and proceed with some space and grace. Certainly as adults right now, we need that for ourselves. And if we can model that and help our children navigate that, then we are going to have a much more peaceful coexistence in this stressful situation. If you are really struggling, Gestalt Columbus is open and operating for business, and we are always happy to answer questions via email. You can find our information at gestaltcolumbus.com, and we welcome your questions and we're glad to help. You can also find some information on there about navigating parenting during this pandemic situation. And we hope everybody stays healthy, and we look forward to interacting with you again as a community soon.